couple of you guys brought up Dace's rankings. I'm working on some rankings myself, trying to tackle all-time program rankings. And just to get past the typical, this is what the AP point system says, or to combine all of it and to make sense of it. So, for example, national championships. I'm not just taking every school's word for their claim of national championships. I've gone through every year for the last 100 years, and I've basically made a judgment decision to say that's not a logical national championship. Alabama, you got shut out twice that season. You lost 2 games. That's not a national championship. We're taking that away from you. Or, Auburn in 2004, you played an undefeated season. You didn't get a chance at a championship game, but we're going to give you a share of the national championship along with LSU and USC. Whatever year that was the USC beat Oklahoma that year, 04. Anyway, so I combed through the 100 years of national championships. I went by my adjustments, conference championships, on down the line. I went through, and I'm going to release those videos hopefully sometime next week. So I'm asking you guys, Kevin, we'll start with you. What would you rank? What is important to you? What do you think is meaningful in ranking programs all time? And maybe what is overvalued?
I think you hit the nail on the head with, having the Livonia Times voting you national champion, or the San Bernardino Herald giving USC that, or the Mobile Penny Saver giving it to Alabama. So, I don't know. I mean, that's because the thing is that you can sit there and look at wins, but how many of those wins were against the YMCA team in 1855? I mean, you just you don't. I don't know. I mean,
the first 50 years of college football is pretty useless. Like for the first 15 years, I went back to 1869. That's the first official year. 1869, for about the first 15 years, nobody's playing more than 3 games. So, when you got 5 teams playing and somebody's 3-0 and the other 2 are 2-1 or 1-2-1, and okay, this is meaningless. And none of these teams or programs are relevant now anyway, so they're not going to be in the rankings anyway. So I couldn't find anything that I could really latch onto until sometime in the mid-20s, and then the poll era started in 36. So that's about where I'm starting to begin with. And the only 2 aspects of this, and Tony and Steve will kick it to you next, that I find to be tangible. The rest of it, there needs to be some type of judgment applied to it. Heisman trophies. I've gone through every major award. I've tallied those up for every team in the country, every position major award. But conference championships and winning percentage can't be debated. Conference championships, sometimes the schedule leads into a conference championship to a certain extent and has an impact, but it's a tangible accomplishment, and so is the winning percentage. Can't be disputed. Other than that, everything's got a slant to it to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think consistency over decades, and like you said, conference championships. I think national championships can be overblown because you can have a really good decade like Alabama, and it skews kind of everything. I think, but I have this own question of my own. How far back is meaningful? Like if you're talking about all time or whatever, I guess that's one thing. But I think what happened, like, what is modern college football? I guess is the question that I've tried to answer. We had a Buckeye Weekly show on, like, what constitutes modern college football? When did that start? And I'm kind of the opinion that it could have been the BCS. It could have been, like 1980, the last 40 years or whatever. And when you think about that, like, what happened before then? What does that has almost no impact? I'd say no impact, because you could have a program blow up from the 70s and become something that it never was before. So I don't know what good the 60s are, the 50s are. I'm just throwing all of these decades out the window and trying to just talk about college football as a whole. And I do that with other sports too, where they could have never played in today's game, and this guy could have never done that. But just talking about a lot of stuff right now and not exactly getting to your point, Mark, but I think just consistency, like you said, over time. And if you're winning your conference 6 times every decade, I mean, over the last 7 decades, I mean, that's pretty good. Something like that, where it's you are the best of what you do, where you do it. And then whatever happens after that, I mean, that's kind of a crapshoot.
Well, nobody's going to match Ohio State's consistency since Woody Hayes stepped on campus, because every other major school we could bring up has at least one just dry period for a long time. And Ohio State's really is like the end of Earl Bruce, the beginning of John Cooper, marginal football from about 87 to 91, 92, but it's not awful. It's winning 8 games a year, going to bowl games, and that's as bad as it's gotten.
They never should have gotten that bad to begin with.
Our great fans are with us win or tie, as Koopmeister said after winning the Rose Bowl.